Hello and welcome to episode 15 of the Gangrene Against the World podcast. I'm Allan Simon. The New York Jets face the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday, their first road game of the year as they head to the 2-0 Tampa Bay Bucs. The Jets are coming off of a no-show performance against the Bills. We've really hashed out a lot of that performance, the disappointment from it. It's been a week of Aaron Glenn against the New York media and a lot of injuries to get to as well. It's just been an ugly week for the Jets, and the best way to turn things around is to win a football game and to get off the mat and show that this is still a team capable of putting together a positive season under Aaron Glenn. The injuries are a factor for both the Bucs and the Jets heading into this game. The Buccaneers offensive line is in shambles, and the Jets need to take advantage of that. And also, the Jets need to find a way to put Tyrod Taylor in the position to succeed and to throw the ball downfield and to get Breece Hall involved in the passing game more, force feed the ball to Garrett Wilson when possible. And in all, this defense needs to find a way to not give up 30 points in this game. The defense overall has just been an embarrassment to start this season. In terms of injuries, Jermaine Johnson has not practiced, and he looks like he might not play on Sunday. He's coming off, of course, that Achilles injury last year. Michael Carter did practice later in the week, so we'll see on the injury report, the last one here on a Friday. We'll get a sense of who is going to potentially be ready to go on Sunday, as we're recording early on a Friday morning. And in all, the Jets need to show Jets fans and themselves how this season is going to look. Because if you go into next week on Monday Night Football 0-3 against the Dolphins, you can make the case that this season has already gotten away from the Jets. Now, how they play matters, but at some point you just got to win a game. At some point you need to get in there and show the league that this is not the same old Jets, that they're not going to no-show. It was a one-off against the Bills. The Bills are a very good team that know the Jets very well. But if this is another 35-14 game against the Buccaneers, Monday against the Dolphins is going to be a circus. You don't need the national media being focused on, look at these two inept teams. It's going to be just a slapping fight on national television. You win this game, and then you have a chance to go against the Dolphins, and then all of a sudden you're talking about a 2-2 football team. So much can change with one win. And for Aaron Glenn, I think he needs to get the pressure off himself by making sure this defense is ready to play. I know he is the head coach, and he has a veteran defensive coordinator in Wilks, but this is his team. He was brought on to be the head coach because of his success as a defensive coordinator. You have to figure out a way to put a game plan together that slows down this Bucs team. Now, Baker Mayfield, although he willed them to 2 wins, he's only passed for the 25th most yards in the league so far through 2 games. They have run the ball pretty efficiently despite their offensive line being a problem and being, really patched together all season, and they'll stay that way for a bit, and it will definitely be that way on Sunday against the Jets. The Jets need to be able to stop the run. The Bucs are a top running efficiency team, and you need to be able to slow that down without having to put too many guys in the box. They have 2 running backs that they like to give the ball to, and the front 4 needs to play really well. Now, if Jermaine Johnson isn't playing, this means it might be more of the Michael Clemens show, a great opportunity for Michael Clemens to step in there and stop the run and play better. He not only had that terrible penalty against Josh Allen, but he just didn't play well against the Bills. Now, someone who did play well is Jawan Briggs. On the reaction show, I talked about how I thought he looked really good, and he poked the ball loose, and he was stopping the run. And the Pro Football Focus grades shined on that and showed that he was the highest rated and highest graded Jet on the day. So that front 4 and Quinnen Williams and Will McDonald getting after Baker, that's all going to be really, really important. And at the next tier, you have 2 linebackers who have underperformed in Jamien Sherwood and Quincy Williams. So can they take advantage of a bad offensive line and make some plays behind the line of scrimmage? For the secondary, the Buccaneers have injuries there too. They don't have Chris Godwin for a few more weeks. Abuka, who's been really good for them so far this season, he has not practiced yet this week, and it's unclear if he's going to be able to suit up. And then, of course, you got Mike Evans, who is Mike Evans and is putting together a great career. And you expect that he'll be seeing a lot of Sauce Gardner. which that means is if Ibuka does play, then that's more pressure on Stevens and on Mike Carter to make sure they keep him in check and that he's not making all these big runs after the catch. And this defense just needs to be better. There's only so many ways to slice it up. The defense has been an embarrassment so far. You give up 30-plus points in 2 straight games. You're very leaky in the secondary. You can't turn anyone over. It's got to reach a point with this defense that they can start being playmakers and not be on their heels all game long. Another big story, of course, is that the starting quarterback for the Jets is going to be Tyrod Taylor as Justin Fields is out with the concussion. Tyrod has been a serviceable backup and a decent starter in his career. He's a journeyman. He started for the Bills. He started in Cleveland. He started for the Chargers. He started games in Houston and then with the Giants, and now he's going to start with the Jets. And last time around with the Giants in 2023, he was fine. He wasn't great. 2-3 in the games that he started. He completed about 65% of his passes. He can push the ball downfield, and this Jets offensive line, as poorly as Justin Fields looked last week, the Jets offensive line have allowed the most pocket time for a quarterback in the league this year. They're number 1 in allowing their quarterback to sit in the pocket. And that means 2 things. 1, Justin Fields isn't getting the ball out of his hands. 2, the offensive line is holding up. So the passing ineptitude was not an offensive line problem. It was a Justin Fields problem. I still think Justin Fields played well against the Steelers because he knew that team really well, and he knew that defense and practiced against them every single day. And then when he plays the Bills, who threw a few different looks at him and never made him feel comfortable, he then really struggles. But Tyrod needs to give a little calm to this offense. And as the veteran, he needs to know, dump the ball off to Breece Hall. Put the ball in a place where the running backs can run after the catch. Isaiah Davis had a good opportunity to get a first down. Justin Fields throws the ball behind him and he can't complete the catch. These are the little things that will make the running game be more efficient too. I really want to see them pass first in a way. I want to see them, extend runs by making them short passes and giving Breece Hall the opportunity to run in the open field and do some damage against a secondary and linebacking core for the Bucs. That isn't great. They need to show that you can't just put 8 guys in the box and stop Breece Hall, and then that's all the Jets' offense is. So I expect through Tyrod's leadership and veteran play that he's going to make the smart pass in these games. He's going to look for his opportunities downfield without taking too many risks and not turning the ball over too much. So a lot to get to in this matchup. I'm really excited. From the Pewter Report, I'm going to be joined by Matt Matera. Matt's roots come from Long Island. He knows this Jets team very well, but he's also in the locker room covering the Buccaneers day-to-day for the famous Pewter Report. Pewter Report's been covering Bucs football in Tampa for almost 30 years. They're the go-to source for all Buccaneers news. So Matt's going to join me, and we're going to chop it up and talk about what to expect from this matchup and go real in-depth into what the Buccaneers look like right now. So Matt Matera is going to join us in a second. First, let's take a look in the history of Jets versus Bucs. There's not a ton there, obviously, 2 different conferences. They have not played each other a ton, but let's take a look back at a famous game featuring the Jets Hall of Fame running back Curtis Martin in a wild one that the Jets pulled off a win back in the day. So we'll take a look at this clip and a listen to this clip, and then Matt Matera joins me from the Pewter Report.
Completing them with regularity on this drive. Quick drop to the left side. Breaking the tackle of Curtis Martin into the end zone for the touchdown. Then he throws over the middle. He's got it. Laverty is cold. All stop. Oh. It's hard, and the Jets say there's a loose football and that they have it, and they do.
Look at Mike Allstott. You protecting the football. Marvin Jones, number 55, gets in there and makes the hit.
And then Victor Green has the loose football. Martin gonna throw it to the end zone. Quebec, touchdown!
Watch Curtis Martin. They just run the football one time. Oh, and you can see Brian Kelly, number 25, comes up for the run. And then Damian Robinson, the safety, not able to get back over there and protect him. But what a good call. You've just run the football. You pick up 6 yards. You come back. Oh, and a nice job by Wayne Corbett.
from the shotgun. King lost the football. The Jets say they have it. And they do. John Abraham with the hit behind the line of scrimmage. Brian Cox came up with the football.
Welcome back to the Gangrene Against the World podcast. Allan Simon here, and I'm really happy this morning to be joined by Matt Matera. Matt works for the Pewter Report. They've been covering Tampa Bay football for almost 30 years, and Matt's on the ground following the team every day, and he does have roots in New York, so he's got some interesting perspective, of course, of what it's like to see the Jets day in and day out. And I'm just really happy, Matt, that you joined us. So thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, this is one that is near and dear to my heart with the team that I cover, the Bucs, and the team I grew up watching, the Jets. So should be a fun one to dive into.
Yeah, no, a lot to dig into, and there's a lot of connections between the two teams. And I want to start with Todd Bowles. And Todd Bowles was the coach of record the last time the Jets had a winning record in 2015. I always thought that he never really got the best shot in New York. He's certainly one of the better head coaches the Jets have had over the last 20 years. He just signed an extension with the Bucs this summer. Can you give me a sense of how Bucs fans, take in Todd Bowles? What's kind of his perception in Tampa Bay, and what the general feeling is with him leading this team and having some success over the last few years?
Yeah, it's a little bit all over when it comes to Coach Bowles, because there was a lot of fanfare at first in terms of what he can do as a defensive coach, because he was brought along when Bruce Arians took over as head coach for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and was the defensive coordinator who orchestrated a great game plan against Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, where they did not allow a touchdown to, that Chiefs team when the Bucs won in their own stadium. But since becoming the head coach, fans aren't in love with Todd Bowles. They've really criticized his overall in-game management, certain decisions of whether to go for it and not go for it, when to call a timeout and when not to call a timeout. He's been given some credit by fans, and I think people that cover the team and national media as well, we have respect, not that I'm at national media, I'm local media, but we have respect for Bowles because he's been able to keep the locker room together, keep them cohesive, because there's been several times where the Bucs, they've started out 2-0, but then they go on a 3, 4, 5 game losing streak, and it seems like things are getting off the rails. But Bowles is able to find a way to get everyone back on track and win the division. Now, Bowles has a couple things that he can put a feather in his cap to, and that's the fact that he's won the NFC South every single year he's been the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs have reached the playoffs every year. Now, detractors will say, well, you had Tom Brady in his last year, Bowles' first year coaching the Bucs, and you didn't even have a winning record. You went 8-9, you made the postseason, then you went 9-8. So last year was truly the first year where they got double-digit wins, and it felt like they earned their spot in the postseason. So fan-wise, it's actually kind of a mixed bag with Todd Bowles, but the players love playing for him, and really that's most important.
Yeah, and that was the perception in New York too. And Todd Bowles certainly is not a New York personality. He's very low key. He would do a weekly spot on ESPN New York, and he's a nice guy. Everyone seems to really like him, and he's a really intelligent defensive coach. And I can understand when you want accountability from a coach, and maybe his demeanor is a little low key. It can seem like maybe he's not totally with it, but he's got a good thing going right there. I'm curious, what's the relationship like between him and Baker? Baker Mayfield has taken the reins of this team pretty successfully. He is a personality in his own right. So do the two of them mesh pretty well together?
They do mesh well, and it's actually bothered Baker that Bowles maybe doesn't get the respect that he deserves for being there for so long. I think people kind of knock Bowles as well because he's so stoic on the sideline and doesn't get animated in certain ways, especially the way that his mentor, Bruce Arians, would, flip out on a referee. But Bowles has always said, listen, if I'm going insane and I look like I'm starting to panic or get frustrated, everybody on the sideline is going to panic and get frustrated as well. So that's why he likes to keep it cool, calm, and collected. But Baker and Bowles have a really good relationship. I think Bowles knows that sometimes with a free spirit like Baker Mayfield, you kind of got to let a wild horse run the way that he wants to. And, Baker really embodies the heart of this team. He can will the team to victory, like on Monday night when he's scrambling on 4th and 10 and getting that first down and talking crap right after, and then also, just making big plays to help the team win in late drives. So their relationship's really good.
Yeah, and Baker, say what you want about his past, and nothing in his past is really that egregious. He's just a big personality. He's a confident guy, but when you were a rookie and you struggle early in your career, it comes across as arrogance. But the guy is a winner. I mean, he's found ways to win at the end of the game twice so far for the Bucs. We've seen him do it across his career. Have Bucs fans really embraced Baker Mayfield as their quarterback?
They're obsessed with Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield is Tampa Bay right now. And credit to Baker, because it wasn't easy to come into the situation replacing Tom Brady, a guy that completely reshaped the outlook of the franchise, winning a Super Bowl, putting them on the map, getting them in national conversations and discussions. But Baker came in and immediately ingratiated himself with the community. You'd see him at a Rays game, having a beer with a fan. He set up a charity organization out here that he has several events, and he's as in the community as he could possibly be. He loves living in Tampa. He has an awesome friendship and relationship with everybody on the offensive line and other teammates as well. But Baker has been described as a quarterback with an offensive lineman's mentality, and I think that's a great way to talk about Baker. But yeah, the fans are absolutely obsessed with him, and it speaks to just how culture is so important to this team, and Baker embodies it.
Yeah, and especially if you have a coach who's a little bit more low-key but still considered a good leader, it's good to have a leader in front who could be really vocal, not afraid of the spotlight whatsoever, and that's certainly Baker Mayfield. You talked about the division championships that they're on a streak with right now, and the division has been soft over the last few years. You look at a team like Atlanta really emerging and being a potential threat to this division. How do you see this going so far between the two teams? Do you still think the Bucs are the favorite to win the South? And what are your thoughts about Atlanta coming from the same direction as well?
Well, there is no question that the Bucs are going to be the favorite to win the division when the season began. I mean, that's all they've done the past couple of years. And I think with Atlanta, they certainly have a lot of talent and a lot of the pieces, especially on offense with Bijan Robinson, who, outside of Saquon Barkley, is probably the best running back in the league. And Drake London is certainly a formidable wide receiver. Their defense was a little bit of a question mark, but their defensive coordinator, Jeff Ulbrich, that Jets fans will certainly be familiar with. They got a lot of young pieces where if you can mold them the right way. But for Atlanta, it really came down to what are you going to get from Michael Penix Jr.? Can Michael Penix Jr., while he had 3 starts last year, still, very inexperienced, can he have a performance, a season the way that Jaden Daniels burst onto the scene right away, or even Bo Nix with the Denver Broncos? So I think the Falcons have actually cut the gap a little bit more based on how Penix has played through 2 games. Then the Bucs beat them in week 1. As Ric Flair once said, to be the man, you got to beat the man. So I still think the Bucs are the favorite without a doubt. When they're fully healthy, they are difficult to beat. I don't care who they're going up against. Now, as the season goes along, the Bucs are dealing with a lot of injuries right now. That'll certainly be a huge factor even for Sunday's game, but that'll be a major play for the entire season. The Bucs have the benefit that they defeated Atlanta in week 1, so they already have that tiebreaker, and there's still a long way to go. I'm not going to count the Bucs out ever. They've found ways to win games and keep close, even when they don't have their best talent, but the gap is certainly closer than it was before the season began.
Yeah, I agree. If you look at the Bucs schedule as they try to get healthy early on, this is the tougher part of their schedule. Their last 10 games, 5 of them are 2 games against New Orleans, 2 games against the Panthers, and you have Miami in there. So I'm sure they're desperate to get healthy quickly. And let's use that as a jumping off point to get into Sunday's matchup with the Jets, where injuries are a factor as they always are. The Jets, if they have an equation to win, it's going to be running the ball the best they can, trying to control time of possession. And, it's seeing what kind of pass rush they can get with the front 4 without needing to rely on linebackers and blitzing. So to start, the Bucs offensive line looks like they may be down as many 3 starters on the offensive line. So right now, What is the look of the line? Who do you expect to play Sunday? And do we think they'll be down 3 linemen?
The offensive line is absolutely in shambles right now. Absolute shambles. So we got to take it back a little bit to the first 2 games of the season for the Bucs, because their best offensive tackle, hands down, is Tristan Wirfs. He's arguably the best offensive tackle in the league. He's won first team All-Pro playing right tackle and playing left tackle. That's how good he is. But he had surgery in the offseason, so he hasn't played yet. So because Tristan Wirfs hasn't played, they had to reassemble their offensive line in so many different ways that their starting center, Graham Barton, moved out to left tackle because that's where he played in college. Their starting guard moved to center, Ben Bredesen, who had previously played center with the Giants. So you're already taking your 2 starters at their natural positions, moving them to different positions. Then they called up Michael Jordan, not the NBA player. They called up Michael Jordan to play at left guard, and then you had your mainstays of Cody Mauch at right guard and Luke Gedeke at right tackle. They did that the first game. They did that the second game as well. However, Luke Gedeke, the right tackle, got injured in that game against the Texans on the first drive. He was questionable to play to begin with, tried to tough it out, couldn't go. He's now on injured reserve, and their backup swing tackle, Charlie Heck, went in at right tackle. Now, also in that game, he was able to play the rest of the game, but Cody Mauch injured his knee. He's now out for the season. So you're looking at not having Tristan Wirfs, who has returned to practice, but not sure just yet if he's going to play. You're completely gone with your right guard, and you won't have Luke Gedeke for this game as well. Now, the reason I bring this up is because Michael Jordan, who's been on the practice squad, he has 1 more call-up left. Michael Jordan did not practice yesterday, even though he wasn't on the injury report the day before because he's a practice squad player. Now, if Michael Jordan doesn't play, you're talking about having 2 of your main starters who aren't even playing their natural position based on how they were shifted around. Then with 3 new players in that you can't totally trust, it's going to be rough sledding for the Bucs. And you saw last game against the Texans, they adjusted quickly to short passes, 3 seconds, get rid of it. 3 seconds, get rid of it. Mike Evans, who's more of a deep ball guy, was running 7-yard routes, and they really relied on the run game. So the Jets, who certainly have a monster in the middle with Quinnen Williams and some great pass rushers on the edge as well with Will McDonald, and we'll see about Jermaine Johnson. They have to attack a beat-up Bucs offensive line because even if Tristan Wirfs can go, and he's great, there's still a lot of advantages for the Jets on that defensive front.
Yeah, and sticking with the Bucs offense, first off, even with the offensive line being makeshift, they've actually run the ball pretty effectively. They grade out as the second best running team according to Pro Football Focus, and the Jets have been leaky everywhere, not just in the run, but against the pass as well. But against the pass, obviously, Chris Godwin is still out for a few more weeks, and then the rookie sensation, Emeka, I always
Ibuka.
get his name, Ibuka. He has not practiced this week either. So does it seem like Ibuka's going to play, or will they be down another receiver as they head into Sunday?
I think it's a 50-50 shot at this point because we've seen with the Bucs, like Vita Vea, their nose tackle on defense, the first week, he didn't practice the first 2 days, and then he went the final practice on Friday. Same thing happened with Luke Gedeke, who I was just talking about, where he didn't practice. So I've seen Ibuka in the locker room. I haven't noticed anything where he's like limping or hobbling that much, but he also hasn't been out there. So I would say it's a 50-50 shot right now with Emeka Ibuka.
Yeah, and we've seen the Jets defense. They have moved Sauce Gardner around, so you would expect that he's going to spend most of his time with Mike Evans, which will open up Ibuka to the rest of the secondary that has been very weak. If he gets to feast on Stevens all day, he might be someone who has a big day if he's able to play. Another big injury for the Bucs, and they've had a lot of them, is they lose for the season Kalijah Kancey.
Yeah.
What does that mean to their run defense and their defensive line to have him for the rest of the year?
Well, there's no replacing Kalijah Kancey. I actually think he's more effective for the Bucs as a pass rushing defensive tackle than he is a run stopping defensive tackle because he's a little bit undersized, but he can hit the gap like no defensive tackle that I've seen. He actually led the Bucs with 7.5 sacks last season, which is a little tough to do as a defensive tackle versus, an edge rusher. I don't think it'll hurt the Bucs as much stopping the run as people think. And Todd Bowles has dealt with this before. Back in 2020 when they won the Super Bowl, they missed Vita Vea for a majority of the regular season. He broke his leg early on, and he came back for that NFC Championship game against the Packers and then played in the Super Bowl as well. Todd Bowles' defense, as Jets fans will know as well, it's always predicated on stopping the run. Of course, he has crazy, chaotic blitzes, but it's always been about stopping the run. And Vita Vea is a big-time, run stopper. He's good with the pass rush as well. I think he's one of the best nose tackles in the league. So he'll have to pick up a lot of the slack with Kalijah Kancey not in there. They also have a guy, Greg Gaines, who typically backs up Vita Vea, but he has starting experience with the Rams, and he's been in the system with the Bucs for a couple of seasons. The big one is Elijah Roberts, who they just drafted. He's a fifth-round pick. He played at SMU. He was actually an edge rusher, but they moved him inside to defensive tackle. He's going to be the big X factor in terms of what type of production do they get from the interior defensive line outside of Vita Vea, because if he can bring something to the Bucs, they should not really skip a beat. And again, there's no replacing Kalijah Kancey, but you can still keep the defense afloat and try to get the Jets into those, third and long situations.
And that'll be the key with Tyrod Taylor playing. He has not started a game since 2023. He in the past has been an effective thrower downfield, and he actually showed a little bit that he can still really sling it when he came in for Fields on Sunday. But when you look at this defense that the Bucs have with a Tyrod Taylor starting, what do you think the keys are for the Bucs, and how do you think they match up with this Jets team, considering how the two are assembled right now?
Well, no disrespect to the Jets offense, but I mean it's Breece Hall, it's Garrett Wilson, and then what else is
That's
there?
it.
And again, I mean that with a ton of respect. I have plenty of friends that are Jets fans and are complaining week in and week out about this team. I think they match up pretty well overall going up against the Jets offense, and the Jets offensive line has done a pretty good job. Where the Bucs have struggled early on in this season is, one, they can't take the ball away. They've gone 6 games in a row now, going back to last season, where they have not created a turnover, which is shocking because they've had opportunities to take the ball away and they just haven't. I think Todd Bowles obviously knows that Garrett Wilson is the main focal point with the Jets offense. So I think they absolutely have to bracket him, maybe double him. They'll probably put Zion McCollum on him depending on where he matches up. But I think Todd Bowles knows you can't let Garrett Wilson beat you. I feel good about the Bucs secondary against the Jets and their receivers. I know Tyrod doesn't scramble as much maybe as Justin Fields does, but the Bucs have run into issues with trying to create pressure with the 4-man pass rush.
Mm-hmm.
So they brought in Hassan Reddick, which, of course, Jets fans love.
So happy to see him again.
Yeah. He looked good in the first game, but the Bucs have mostly created pressure, bringing different types of blitzes. So if I'm the Jets, the one thing they could really exploit with the Bucs is they've had some issues tackling running backs in the open field with like swing passes and screens and stuff like that. They have a linebacker, Sarasier Dennis, who it's his 3rd year, but it's really his 1st year as like a full-time starter. He's taken some tough angles of pursuit to get after running back. So if I'm the Jets, I'm dumping it off to Breece Hall all day long and just trying to get him in one-on-one opportunities with Sarasier Dennis. I think that's probably the best way for the Jets to try to exploit this Bucs defense if Garrett Wilson isn't able to get open.
Yeah, and Wilson has done a great job in his career, since being a rookie, of finding a way to make noise, even with some of the worst quarterbacks throwing at him. And they'll need to find a way to force feed him the ball. And with Breece Hall, I've been saying it every week. If you're going to get him 25 touches, 5 to 7 of those have to be in the passing game every single game. And certainly an opportunity for him to make some noise against a team that like you said is struggling to bring down running backs in the open field. And first off, I also want to say too that I know you mean no disrespect, as we can see behind you, your Mike Piazza poster behind you.
I'm a
you got
diehard
roots
Mets
in New
fan.
York, and good luck to your Mets as they head towards the October. This is a Yankee hat that's on backwards always. So I'm curious, you have a unique perspective being a New Yorker who now covers the Bucs every single day. What is the outside perception of the Jets right now? Obviously, the dumpster fire that was the Aaron Rodgers era, I'm so glad they played week 1 because you can kill that narrative now. Rodgers came in, he won, whatever, it's over. But when you hear people around the league talking about the Jets and when you're just talking about them in Tampa Bay, what's the overall perception of this version of the Jets this year?
I think this version, there's a lot of mystique, there's a lot of mystery, but then also a lot of, well, haven't we seen this before? A new coach comes in and he says all these things, and all right, they finally found the guy, and then, week 2, they look like they quit against the Buffalo Bills, and the Jets lose in Jetsian fashion in week 1 against the Steelers, where the kicker hits a freaking 60-yard field goal after a ball was nearly intercepted and ping-ponged everywhere and ended up in the hands of the Steelers receiver. So outside perspective, I think when Rodgers was there that first year, it was, wow, the Jets may be a legit contender for the first time since 2011 when they ironically lost to the Steelers in the AFC Championship game. Outside of that, I don't think the Jets are taken seriously, unfortunately, just based on their track record. Again, they haven't been to the postseason since 2011. It's tough to take them seriously, especially when all stories come out every single year, the Madden ratings and stuff with Woody Johnson. So I think Aaron Glenn is a good fit for the Jets, but until the Jets prove that they can, hang tight with teams and make things difficult for them, I think it's kind of the same perception of not being taken seriously.
Yeah, and nor should they be taken seriously. I mean, I'm sitting at MetLife Stadium on Sunday, and we counted it. It's maybe the 10th game in the last 5 years at MetLife in which they don't lead the entire game, and by the fourth quarter, the game is well decided. It's not just losing; it's losing in, as you said, Jetsian fashion, both. With these outrageous endings like they had against the Steelers and the no-shows that they have sometimes. I would agree with how people view on the outside, because it's how we view as Jets fans and as people surrounding the Jets every single week. So a couple quick ones, because I know you got to head out to practice soon. If the Jets were to pull off an upset this week against Tampa Bay, what would you think that went wrong with the Bucs this week?
I think for the Bucs offensively, it would be turnovers for sure. Baker has not thrown an interception, but there are times where Baker can get careless with the football. He's certainly thrown a couple of interceptable passes this year and had a very careless fumble last week. It was recovered by the Bucs. So I would say turnovers and the inability to have the offensive line protect for Baker Mayfield. Like, again, that's going to be one of the biggest storylines is how does this Bucs offensive line gel together? Ideally, you would like the Bucs to continue running the football because offensive linemen enjoy running more than pass blocking. So I think the Jets would probably force the Bucs into a lot of third down passing situations where they could just tee off on Baker Mayfield. So I think offensively, that's where the Bucs would struggle. Defensively, letting Tyrod get into a rhythm, I think would really hurt the Bucs. They can get beat over the middle as well. And there's a theme in Tampa right now that the Bucs play terribly against backup quarterbacks. So many fans are worried about that as well. But I would say letting Tyrod get into a rhythm, maybe someone else breaks out for the Jets outside of Garrett Wilson in the receiving game. That could be something where the Jets take advantage of something over the middle, or again, getting Brees the ball out in space.
And so if backup quarterbacks are a problem for the Bucs, I don't know if you also know this stat that the Bucs are wearing their white creamsicle jerseys. They are 0-4 against the Jets when wearing those jerseys, going back to the 70s. So Jets fans are really reaching for straws online to try to find some sort of trend that says they have a shot on Sunday. Now, if you put out an official prediction online and want to tell us where we can go see that, we're happy to do that. But if you can give it here on the show, what's your prediction for Sunday?
Yeah, for sure. So we'll have a story on pewterreport.com. It'll come out a little bit later this afternoon where everyone at Pewter Report gives our prediction for the game. It comes out every Friday, but of course for Jets fans, they'll be interested in this one. I'm still going to pick the Bucs to win, excuse me. I think it's going to be very close. I think the Jets obviously don't like how it looked last week against Buffalo, so I think they're going to give a heck of a performance. But we've seen early on with the Bucs' new offensive coordinator, Josh Broussard, he's able to adjust on the fly and kind of figure out what the defense is going to do. So I still believe that the Bucs offense, even with the makeshift offensive line, they're going to be able to run the football the way they want to and get it done in the passing game with enough protection and exploit a lot of the issues on the Jets defense outside of their pass rush and Sauce Gardner in the secondary. At the same time, I kind of think Tyrod gives Jets a little bit of a better chance to win versus Justin Fields, just based on the Jekyll and Hyde performances of Justin Fields, where maybe you need a little more consistency that Tyrod Taylor can bring. So I actually think the Jets might be headed in the right direction with there's no moral victories in a close game, but I think the Jets will play much better than they did against the Bills, and it'll be close. So I'll say the Bucs win 28-24, but I think it's going to be a tough fight. I think the Jets actually really do bring it on Sunday.
Yeah, you're right. Tyrod, although maybe the ceiling is lower for what his performance can be, there's just a stability to what he brings to the offense. So great. Well, listen, Matt, where can we find you on social media to follow everything you're doing outside of obviously pewterreport.com?
Yeah, so my Twitter or X account is Matty_Matera. That's Matera. And then you can find all my work there and on pewterreport.com. Our social media is at Pewter Report. And yeah, this has been great. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, Matt, thank you so much. And we look forward to following your analysis this weekend and moving forward for the rest of the year. We're going to take a break and watch another clip from Jets-Bucs history. Matt, thank you once again, and we'll be right back.
Now they face 3rd and short to keep this drive going. 6 offensive linemen. Wayne Hunter has come on. Robert Turner is out with a knee injury. And look out. Thomas Jones streaking to the end zone. Touchdown, Jets. That is domination at the line of scrimmage. And a 33-yard rip for Jones. 10 touchdowns rushing on the season for the veteran Jones.
And that's what happens when you commit so many defenders to the line of scrimmage. You see the kick-out block. Thomas Jones gets right there, and Tenard Jackson is not going to catch this guy in the open field. Talk about patience in the running game. Bill Callahan, that offensive line coach, Brian Schottenheimer, they're going to continue to give this guy opportunities.
You just heard another clip from Jets-Bucs history. The Jets are looking to add another memorable game to the slate when they face the Buccaneers in Tampa Bay on Sunday. Want to thank Matt Matera. Matt's great. He really knows that Buccaneers team inside and out. He's in the locker room every day, like I said, covering the team. And he did a great job. So I really want to thank Matt for joining me. And to put a bow on this matchup, it's very simple. The Jets need to take advantage of the injuries the Buccaneers have. Matt laid out where they're weakest. So if you get the ball to Breece Hall in the open field, Tampa Bay has struggled to bring down running backs. So leverage that by getting him involved in the passing game. Screen passes and swing passes and things that give your playmaker an opportunity to make plays. I'm interested to see how they mix in Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis. It seemed like they were trying to get Isaiah Davis into the game more. And Braylon Allen, he's really struggled so far. He has been a non-factor on this offense. So you got to get running backs the ball in the middle of the field making plays. You also have to take advantage of the injuries on the defensive line and keep Tyrod Taylor upright. Give him the opportunity to throw the ball downfield so you don't become a one-dimensional team. And overall, you got to find a way to put together a cohesive, complete performance on offense and defense. We've not touched on special teams yet. Outside of the punter McNamara, special teams has just been okay. The return game has been rough. So all 3 phases were a mess against the Bills. Is this just going to be, hey, that was the one-off? Where this team is more like the team that we saw against the Steelers? Or is it going to be more of the same and Baker Mayfield slices and dices up this team? So let's take a look at the 5 keys to the game for this matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 1, you got to pass early. You want to set up the run with the pass in this game, which I know is a little bit backwards. Tampa Bay knows you're going to run the ball. Show them early on that you can throw it downfield. Show early on that Tyrod Taylor is going to make the right decision. He's going to be smart with the football. Dump it off to the running backs. Find Garrett Wilson when you have the opportunity to. Mix in the tight ends a little bit. The tight ends have been a non-factor in the passing game outside of Tyrod getting a touchdown pass to Jeremy Ruckert, who's played better in the first 2 weeks than we expected. Overall, pass early to set up the run and then let Breece Hall run wild. Number 4, Breece Hall. He needs to be getting the ball early and often. We heard Matt said once again that this is a Tampa Bay team that struggles tackling in the open field. Let's take advantage of that and have Breece Hall be that player who's running wild and making plays. This is a good time for a Breece Hall home run call on Sunday if he can break off a big one. Number 3, the offensive line for Tampa Bay is in shambles, as Matt said, so you need the front 4 to dominate. You need Will McDonald to dominate. Will McDonald is not good against the run. He's one of the worst defensive linemen against the run in the league. But where his value is getting after the passer. We need him to be in Baker Mayfield's face all day long. Quinnen Williams has done a good job of getting into the backfield. He's a all-pro caliber defensive tackle. He needs to be mixing it up in the backfield as well. And then the guys they rotate next to those two, whether it's Jawan Briggs, whether it's Harrison Phillips, or if it's going to be a lot more Michael Clemens, they have to take advantage that the offensive line has, just patched together this starting 5. Number 2, who's going to turn over the ball? Who's going to be the defense that makes the big play and switches possession. Tampa Bay has not created a turnover in 6 games. The Jets do not have any turnovers this season either. They're -2 on the year in turnovers. So can the Jets defense be the one that intercepts Baker Mayfield or gets a strip sack on him? Who's going to be the team that breaks the turnoverless streak for their own squad? And number one, when it's all said and done, is what is Tyrod Taylor as the starting quarterback of the Jets? They pay him a lot of money to be the backup. Last year it was to make sure that an older Aaron Rodgers coming off a significant injury has a quality backup. This year it's Justin Fields is who Justin Fields is. He also gets hurt a lot because he's going to be running around. So you need a backup who's competent. This is why you pay him this money. Tyrod needs to step in, be the professional that he is, be the leader that he is. He needs to be the one who guides this team to a victory and pulls the Jets out of this muck that they're in right now. What I will also say is we spent a lot of time in the preseason talking about who's going to be the quarterback 3, and this is why. Because we are now officially one snap away from Brady Cook taking a regular season snap as the quarterback for the Jets. And if that doesn't scare you, it should. Those are the 5 keys to the game. Pass early, get Breece Hall involved, make sure that the pass rush is being aggressive against a bad offensive line. Who can be the team that can turn over the other team? Both teams have struggled in that regard. And then, of course, Tyrod Taylor needs to be the steady veteran that he is in order to guide this team to a victory. So Sunday, 1 o'clock, Tampa Bay. It's an opportunity for the Jets to change the whole feel of this season and go in and get a win. If you can find yourself at 1-2 before you go to Monday Night Football against the Dolphins, that would be obviously a huge, huge thing. So I want to thank Matt Matera once again for joining us this morning. This has been episode 15 of the Gangrene Against the World podcast. I'm Allan Simon. Thank you so much for listening.